Recently, someone asked me a question. What does the word moksha exactly imply? Suppose if it is freedom from the cycle of birth and death, then what happens to the individual soul after it has attained moksha? Since there is also a universal soul, does the individual soul merges with the universal soul, or does it continue to have its own identity even after attaining moksha or salvation, as we call? Now, the question is a very loaded question. It implies so many things. First of all, no one has ever come back to tell the story. All that we can do is only speculate based on the existing ancient Sanskrit texts. But before understanding that, I would like to draw your attention to one of the philosophical systems in India. As you are aware, there are 6 major philosophical systems in India, and Vedanta happens to be one such philosophical system. Further, the Vedanta has got 3 schools of thought. One is the concept of Advait Vedanta, or the concept of non-dualism. Then we have the concept of Dvait Vedanta, or the concept of dualism. Then we also have the third school of thought called Visist Advaita, or the qualified dualism. That means among mankind itself, there are 3 schools of thought. As per the concept of non-dualism, the individual soul, theoretically, it has to go and merge with the universal soul at some point. Now, as per the concept of dualism, individual soul can never merge technically with the universal soul. It will continue to exist forever, retaining its individual identity. Now, what does qualified non-dualism has to say on this? I have no idea. But however, whatever I am going to comment on it, probably that's what the qualified non-dualism is hinting at. Now, in order to understand this concept further, let's first nail down the concept of moksha or salvation, so that we can move on from that point onwards. As per the teachings of all yoga texts, the moment the karma is wiped off from an individual soul, it no longer takes the birth again. That means essentially it is freedom from the cycle of birth and death, either as a human or as an animal. The moment the stock of karma is completely wiped off, the spirit which dwells within every creature is freed. It is liberated. Use any terminology which one would like to use. Call it salvation, call it moksha, call it whatever this thing. Now the question arises, what happens to that individual soul after that? Now, in one of the great texts, Gita, Lord Krishna says, suppose the soul has been worshipping him, then obviously the soul is going to merge with Lord Krishna. However, in case the soul has been worshipping various other deities, gods or goddesses, it is going to merge with their respective god or goddesses. For example, we have the sun god. Someone who has been worshipping the sun god, ultimately the soul, after attaining freedom from the cycle of birth and death, it merges with the sun god, and so forth. Now, if this is the case, where is the sun god? What about the moksha for sun god then? We have so many star systems, we have so many planets whom we worship as gods, and so many other celestial objects, and also the physical elements, like, for example, the god of wind, the god of fire, etc. That means there is no salvation for the gods and goddesses itself, as per the this train of logic. Then what happens to the spirit which is in the subtle form? As far as the yoga texts are concerned, yoga comes to an end the moment an individual soul is freed from the cycle of birth and death. That means the moment the entire karma has been wiped off, yoga as we know, the classical yoga, it comes to an end. But then the yoga texts also say that there is something known as final phase of the journey, spiritual journey, which essentially means moving from dualism to non-dualism. If that has to get affected, then it may take many what you call cycles of creation. As we all know, the creation has to get dissolved at some point. The universe has to be created again, again gets dissolved, again gets created. So the timelines are gigantic here. Theoretically, yes, the soul will have to go and merge with the universal soul one day. That's fine. But the timelines involved are gigantic. It is going to take God knows how many millennia. So from this point, what the proponents of dualism who are saying, they are also right. Theoretically, it may happen as per the proponents of Advait Vedanta. While theoretically it may be possible, but all practical purposes, we consider that the individual soul eternally retains its individual identity. Just like we are saying, all the celestial objects like planets, moons, stars, like that. Probably the qualified non-dualism must be hinting at this concept only. But in any case, all this is only our speculation based on what is given and written in the ancient texts. However, our focus for all practical purposes is to wipe clean our karma and get out from the cycle of birth and death. This is what I have to say on this. There is no point in getting into endless academic debates. Whether is there a concept of non-dualism or the concept of dualism is valid, becomes actually pointless. That's all I wanted to talk to you today.